Yeah, and so that brings up a good point.
So how
Solar
many,
typically.
like,
Okay.
I'm sorry, one more thing to add, and this would fall into the sales because I know how I'm perceiving it, and we want to get into the solar space. And, so for the sales, I mean, that would be my customer base, right? So it's not the person that can barely afford their bills now, but the person that wants to enhance it.
Yeah, yeah, and so that brings up a good point that there's two main things that solar do. Either help you save money or provide a renewable backup. Because it's the one thing. The natural gas is a little bit different, but it's the sun's going to come up every day, and you'll be able to charge your battery, and in a apocalypse scenario, you'd be able to at least have some power, every single day that you'd be able to rely on, and it would be fully self-contained. You wouldn't, if they shut off the natural grid or the natural gas, because we had a massive grid failure and whatever happened, like that's always a maybe small possibility, but with solar, nobody would be able to basically affect your solar. And so we always need to kind of pull apart if the goal is saving money or the goal is emergency backup, because typically if you pay cash on solar, your return on investment, if it's just solar, is going to be the 5 to 7 years. Once you add batteries, that changes it because you're no longer the batteries aren't really giving you instant ROI like solar is. It's giving you more of like the security of it. So that usually takes your ROI closer to the 10-year mark, 10 to 12, I would say, depending on your current electricity bill, what you're paying on the rates, etc. So it does change your ROI on it, because when you add batteries, typically it's no longer as much of an ROI discussion. You're not trying to save money, you're trying to protect something, or it's just like, what's the ROI on a generator? Zero, right?
Right.
Because it
It's a
doesn't
peace
save
of
you any money,
mind,
it protects you. Exactly.
right? It's a warranty. It's like buying an extended warranty, so I don't have to pay.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
what I find is that our area, we have high winds, tornadoes, downlines. There was a power outage this morning, right? So, in your house would, if you didn't have a backup like me, like my neighbors, my backup generator kicked in this morning. Great, I'm
Mhm.
protected from my basement was my main concern, right? So that worked. My neighbor, no power, and they have solar, and they didn't opt for the batteries, so they can't even turn their lights on.
Yep.
The garage door. They have to manually open their garage door now. The convenience of that battery, I think, adds a quality of life, just a peace of mind. I think that would be myself when we launch this. I think that's our target market for the
Yep.
people that's not looking to save pennies, but looking to have comfort and just a peace of mind.
Yep. Agreed. And so let's talk a little bit in the last couple of minutes on how we do some discovery, some good questions with the homeowner. So the first question we always would want to ask on the initial discovery, or the first time it's been brought up, is what caused you to look into solar, or what caused you to be interested in solar? Because it's going to be, reduce my electricity bill, save money, or protect my family. Again, two distinctly different pathways that are not that we're going to have different conversations around. Again, like one of the questions I like to ask when just like I just asked Mark, what's your ROI on a generator? If somebody is like saying, I want to protect my family, but then they come back to like an ROI or a savings discussion, we need to kind of reframe it, or like help them understand that the solar saves you the money, the battery gives you the peace of mind. The battery isn't here to save the money in most situations if you have net metering. There are, like in California right now, everybody's doing batteries because it's going to save them money as well. And we do batteries in certain areas of Arizona because they don't have good net metering. So there is some areas where you can save money with batteries, but generally, it's going to be one of those two pathways for most homeowners. And so if they choose the emergency backup, again, I like to really help people understand what I think is so unique about solar, and where the perfect safety net is: generator, solar, battery. Especially if your generator's, on diesel or something, or where you have to keep filling it up. If you have a massive freeze, or you're not able to get on the roads for 2, 3 weeks, or whatever the scenario is, you didn't prepare well enough, or whatever it is like that. that generator is not renewable. That generator is not going to continue to power itself. You have to put inputs into it. And at some point you're going to run out of inputs. Now, granted, you could have a 50-gallon, diesel or a 500-gallon diesel store on your property, and that would power it for a year. But most of us don't have that maybe land space or that ability. So with a solar system with the battery is every day when the sun comes back up, you just got a little bit of power. Even on a cloudy day, you're going to get some power. So that leads us to our next question, which is, if power goes out, what would you want to back up? So, we again ask, what caused you looking at solar? Oh, I want to protect my family. Okay, great. If the power goes out, what is most important for you to back up? And what then is a need versus a want? All right. So like in your situation, Mark, if you're we don't have basements in Arizona, but it sounds like you got a spring that runs through and you're basically, you have a system that pumps the water out so you don't flood the house. That's a need. In Arizona, I would say air conditioning is a need if it's in summer. Like you can't survive in a house for 5 days without air conditioning. Like you just start having heat strokes and etc. If there's a freeze in Texas, I would say the heat is a need. So a refrigerator typically would be a need. Because if you're going to be at the house for 2 weeks, you need to make sure your refrigerator, your food doesn't go bad. So, but some people will say, hey, my need is that my nothing changes in my life. I want to be able for the power to go out. I want to run this house for 3 weeks with my generator, my solar, my power, and not ever have to worry about anything with the grid, no matter what. Okay, that's a whole different conversation. Then I want to be prepared, for 1 to 3 weeks, but just I don't think it's really going to happen. So really, I just want to, I really want to be more prepared for like a 2-day outage. I don't want to lose my food. I want to be able to at least run my air conditioner, maybe watch some TV. Okay, cool. That's significantly different than preparing for 3 weeks of not being able to get on the roads. So we really want to dig into like, what are you preparing for? Because people prepare for different things, like the one scenario you just mentioned, Mark, maybe your neighbor just says, hey, you know what? I just want to be able to open my garage door, and keep my food good. Okay, great. Let's give him a little 5 kilowatt-hour battery from Enphase. That will open the garage and that'll keep his refrigerator running and allow him to charge his phone and whatever else, and it's only going to be $5,000. If you have a 5,000 square foot home and you want to be prepared for 3 weeks and nothing changes, we might need to put in $50,000-$60,000 worth of batteries. It just depends on what you're trying to do. And that's why it's so important on this discovery process to figure out what is their conception of being prepared and what are they preparing for? Is it preparing for 1 day, 3 weeks, the whole apocalypse? I want to be able to run my house forever, no matter what happens, whatever the scenario is, the better we understand it, then we can, provide the solution to it.
Well, supposedly on our, I don't know, camper, it's a 40-foot camper and it has solar panels and it has a battery system in it to live off grid.
Okay.
I don't know actual usage if I was out in the desert, how long those batteries would last running at rooftop AC cooking in the sun, but I think it's more meant for in case you get to an area overnight without power, you can still have, there's batteries in there being charged.
Yep.
It was like a $10,000 upgrade, but we thought it was kind of cool because then we don't need, when we take that, we won't, if we ever took it across the country, we wouldn't need to have an electric hookup.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the big thing when we're looking at batteries as well, to kind of wrap this all up is, also going to come, what, even if it's a normal size home, like what is your idea of comfortable, if the power goes out? Do you want it to continue to be, let's say 76 degrees, in your house? Or are you okay with it being 88 and you just want to be able to, be able to quote unquote survive, not thrive, not be happy. Like, I just want to make sure that we don't die. Okay, cool. Well, then let's keep the house at 88. That's going to be a miserable, but you're not going to die. That takes far less energy than if I want nothing to change in my life. Okay, great. We got to keep the house at 76, and as we kind of talked about, that's the single biggest load pull. So, yeah, your solar system on your RV, if you take it to Arizona, I would be willing to bet you could not run it like in our deserts, and it be self-contained. But probably in, Illinois, when the summers aren't as intense, you probably could, sit out there, run your air conditioner. It wouldn't have to work as hard. And then maybe that on the flip side, the heat is, it's a better insulated RV, and you use blankets, and you don't have to have a big heater, or you use like a whatever, like a wood heater or a fire, whatever the situation is, not having to cool the whole RV in Arizona would greatly change what that system could do. And so that's really what the core of this, I want you guys to take away on the batteries, is doing good discovery, figuring out what in their mind is the scenario. Because again, all of us have different things we're preparing for, and what we think, I need to prepare for is different than what you think you need to prepare for. And once we can understand that, then we can start looking at the different options. All right.